Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the technical trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Wednesday, the 31st of August, last day of the month, and it wasn't a good day on Wall Street. It started out okay, but again, the markets are under constant pressure, and until we get the washout or the pullback that I think eventually we'll see in the next day or two, we're getting close. The oscillators are getting oversold as well. But there's always stocks moving, and today we had a bunch of them. Here's a few for you to take a look at. Altimmune, first of all, from the May low near under 4, it had a nice 5 wave advance, consolidated, ran up again, it formed a flag, and today it exploded out of the flag, jumping from 1837 to 22.5, finished 22.10 up 316, a gain of nearly 17%, and finished near the high for the day going away. So I'm looking for a follow through to get up near 25. Up next is BHC Bausch, which has a pretty ugly looking chart. But today's action is on big volume, 26.5 million shares traded, which is the biggest day on an up day of volume we've had in a couple of years. Coming off of a low, I think we're going to see at least a test follow through of about 665, and we may get it up to the 8-9 zone over the next day, few days if there's any kind of follow through with volume. Keep an eye on it. The CHPT, one of the swing trades I gave out earlier in the month when it broke out back, I think it was around 12 or 13, ran up to 18.75, pulled back. It held support here, and then again here, 3 times holding the 14 range, and today it popped 14.5 to 1694, finished at 1658 up 209. That was a gain of 14% on 28 million shares, which also is the biggest volume we've seen since November of last year, indicating the possibility that we may have already broken out of the downtrend. This goes back a ways, obviously, multiple waves down. But here's a stock that went from 48 down to 8. It looks like it's on its way back up, at least for the next target at around 21. FREY, what a monster move this has had just since the end of June when it was trading around 6.5, spiking up to 1440. In the last week or so in particular, after pulling back and retesting 10, it's gone vertical for about 40%. Volume has been heavy the last couple of days, and it's right at the high from November and also the high near of last August. So you get through this resistance level, you may see a vertical move into the high teens. Keep an eye on FREY. First Solar, one of our favorites, and my number one favorite stock in the solar group, First Solar, which we've traded dozens of times in the last couple of years. You see the breakout with a big breakaway gap here. This broke out of the base. It broke across the declining tops line, took out lateral resistance. It did it on big volume, and it gapped. When you gap like that and you don't pull back, you usually go higher. This stock went from 87 to the high yesterday at 130, 43 points in about a month, and about a 50% move. So pretty powerful move for First Solar. And quite frankly, you would think it would pull back already, but it's so strong, this stock may be headed much higher, because let me show you something. This is taking out the highest price we've seen in 11 years. And with a base that long, you can support a much bigger move. And my next target is going to be upwards of 175 for a swing from 128. So look for another 30 or 40 points on First Solar, particularly if the market holds together. Up next is Futu, which we put a swing on. What a monster move this had in 2020 to 2021, when it was literally traded from 8 to about 215. And a massive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave Elliott wave move. And then it consolidated for a good 4 or 5 months before cracking here and forming a bear flag there, at which point I put a short recommendations out, if you remember, about 110. It then dropped down to 21 over the next 6-7 months, and then hit a V bottom and pulled back in a nice orderly decline. When it broke out here, we put a swing on it at around 38. It made it up to 55. It had a nice falling wedge. It broke out again. I think the stock heads back up to 55 and then maybe tries 65, the resistance from last November. HOUR. Now, it's a stock I don't talk about much, but I wanted to show you the 2-day spike up and break of the large wedge pattern that it was in. And today's high tested the high from April. Should we get through that, I would look for about 6.5 for the next move. MRNS with a nice reversal today. This is called an engulfing reversal day, where it makes a lower low after testing support across these lines, and then reverses up and finishes up 35 cents or 5.5% on the day. Not a big move. Volume picked up a little bit, but as you can see right here, it's not ideal, but it's something to keep an eye on, particularly if it takes out the year-long declining top line. Then you may see a stock move into the low teens. Nutanix, one of my favorite companies in the last few years. We traded it there. We traded it here. We made two really good long-term swings on this stock several times. Maybe time to do it again. The stock came down, got crushed down to the 13 range, high in the 40s over a period of about 9 months from the base, broke out. And today was very interesting because it came down in the morning and then reversed sharply and had a massive engulfing reversal bar, which is extremely bullish. And it did it on the biggest volume, 6.4 million. That's the biggest volume traded since it spiked down in May. So a breakaway day with breakaway volume. Now I'm looking for a test of the double top that it created back in May. That means we're looking at 23 and then maybe 25 or 6. In duo, these Chinese stocks had a massive day today, and this one in particular went right to its prior high. I think it looks like this one wants to run. The long-term pattern shows a massive move up, massive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave Elliott wave move, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wave move down. And this is what we call an exhaustion spike down, massive breakaway gap, and then a 3-wave correct to falling wedge, eventually breaking the trend line. That's where I put a swing on it. It ran up to the target and pulled back to support. And at this point, you can see that it's from the wedge and exploded out again. I think it's going to test a gap and make a move towards 79 on my next target. Up next is STEM, S-T-E-M, broke out of a base with a breakaway gap as well. It's amazing how often those breakaway gaps work. This was trading in a wedge pattern or coil. There's your breakaway gap, and there's your spike up to the resistance, and the target I gave you is 1680. The pullback tested support and then moved right back up to, I think, where this stock can take out 17. You're going to see a stock trading at 2021. TOST, after a long decline, it took this one down from 69.70, double bottom down to 12. It finally broke the declining tops line, technically right there, spiked up to resistance and pulled back. It's got a really nice bull wedge forming, folks, and it's gotten very quiet near the apex of it, which we often see before a move. Keep an eye on this one because I think it's going to pop 22 and 25-year targets. And finally, little Volcon, which has had a lot of spikes in the last few months, looks like it may be breaking out, and this time for good. If you get across resistance, which right now is about 3.5, you might see the stock move towards 5 and maybe even 7. Depends on volume. Keep an eye on this one. It's got a nice rounding bottom after a big drop that saw it go from 18 to under $1, 95 cents at the low. Now it's back up to 3, and it looks like it's running again. That's it for tonight, everybody. Have a great evening. I'll talk to you tomorrow.